2 lives in one day, unheard of. Someone would probably say that it's getting a little bit saturated, but when you've got a new toy, you're going to play with it. I thought I'd do this one on entrepreneurial parents, but what I mean by entrepreneurial parents is it doesn't necessarily just mean working or starting your own business. It can also mean working in a business that you don't necessarily own. You could be working in a team, could be anything, but working hard when you're a parent is the topic of discussion. But I'm going to focus it on some of my learnings as well. As always, as we go through this, I'll keep one eye on the comment section. So apologies if I look off camera. It's because I'm looking at the comment section because I don't want to miss anything. And also, I'll make sure that we keep it within a reasonable time frame as well. Now, before I get going on this, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was this Saturday, we will be, as a team, jumping out of a perfectly functional aeroplane at 15,000 feet. Because why wouldn't you? But the reason why we're doing that is it's not for a jolly boys, because a lot of us don't like heights. I personally, I'm not too bothered about heights, but it's just hard for me to get my head around about why you would jump out of a perfectly good aeroplane. The mental image I have at the moment is dangling my feet over the side. This is a tandem jump, by the way, so I feel for the guy that's going to be moving me out of the door, it'd be like shifting a fridge. But I feel it's going to be quite weird when you've got your legs dangling out of the side and then you do I don't know what they do, to be honest. I've never done it before. In my head, they do a 3, 2, 1 and off you go. What a invigorating feeling that would be. I'll be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous. If anything, I'm more concerned that because of COVID, they don't give you jumpsuits anymore. So you've got to do it in, if I'm correct, comfortable shoes. You're not allowed hooks on them. You have to wear trousers that are also comfortable but don't have big zips. You're not allowed to wear a coat that's got a zip. You're not allowed to wear a hoodie. You can wear a long sleeve jumper. So I'm worried that if I jump, what if my top rides up and then there's some serious underbelly on the go? And I mean, if that's not worth a donation, I don't know what is, because this is what this is about. We're not jumping for the sake of our sanity. We're jumping to raise money for a very well-known charity, Mind. It's been very difficult over the past 18 months, especially with COVID. A lot of people are struggling with mental health. So we thought, what's the best way to do this is to do something a little bit dangerous, a little bit out there. So if you're in the giving mood, honestly, we're not fussed how much or what you can give. Anything at all is very much appreciated. Just find Sharon Boyd. She's our CXO. You can go on LinkedIn, type Sharon's name, and you'll find a recent post that she put out today. Sharon, if you're watching, I think you are, because you just commented on the underbelly, which I'll show. Oh, there you go. Sharon's comment. Underbelly donations, please. What's this one? Yep, underbelly showage most definitely deserves a donation. Well, there you go then. Yeah. So if people donate, I'll promise I'll show my underbelly. Oh, there you go. Look. So Sharon's kindly commented. I mean, you can look how cool this is. So when you comment, I can put them on screen to show you what people are saying. So yeah, if you just go and find that link and then donate, and we'll raise some money for a fantastic cause. So that I just wanted to start with that. So who's this handsome-looking chap who appears to be terrified of swans? That is my son, Lucas, and he turned 7 this week, or should I say on Thursday. And with him turning 7, it sort of like made me think about business and work life. Thank you for the happy birthday, Sharon. Work life, and what it's like wrestling, being in a demanding job or starting your own business or whatever that might be, and having children. So this is very much an open discussion. I'm the only one that's at the moment talking, but I would really appreciate as we go through this, if anybody's watching this who does have children, does have learnings about some of the things we talk about in regards to time that you're not having with your children, on the time that you do have with your children, what do they see, etc., etc. Just join in, and we can chat about it. So I remember when I first started my business, MKL Innovation, only 4 years ago now, and it was, if I'm being honest, it was one of those decisions where I didn't really think about the ramifications of what it would have on home life. I was thinking more around my professional life, my what I could achieve in terms of the business itself, my personal development, and everything in between. But I didn't really take the time to think about what impact that would have at home, because I didn't know. I've never run my own business before. This is my first one. Hopefully it's my first and only one, because I'm loving doing it. I can't see myself doing anything else. But going from a corporate job to starting your own business, I didn't understand what those impacts would be on home life. But when I was growing up, and John, if you're watching this as well, when I was growing up, or so I say when we were growing up, both our parents worked, and they worked very hard jobs, very demanding jobs, and they would always be at work. I just remember them constantly being at work, and not that we didn't ever want for anything, or I mean, we didn't have lots of money. We had to save a lot for Christmas and birthdays, and back in early 90s, trainers were astronomically expensive, and I remember my parents working God knows how many hours to be able to buy us those trainers, because being in school was like a jungle. So God forbid if you turn up with the wrong trainers on, Jesus Christ, it's a horrendous place to be. But we were lucky enough to be able to have parents that would do that. But it doesn't mean that they didn't work extremely hard. And well, we saw that in them, that they would always go to work. They would come home late, at the end of the day, tired. We'd all have our tea, as we call it in the north, although I say dinner now. At least that's right. We'd all have our tea together, and we'd chat, and then it would just go on, and we'd have our weekends and stuff like that. But I always remember growing up seeing my parents work extremely hard. And for the most of my professional career, I worked in corporate life, had corporate jobs, some that I loved, some that I absolutely hated. Some companies I worked for was fantastic. Others, I don't know how they're still in business. But what I didn't understand, because you don't when you're in the detail, and this is before we had a child, Lucas. So myself and my wife, Kelly, we would go to work, we'd come home, pretty similar hours-ish. So we'll leave the house at about 6:30, 7, back for about half 6, go to the gym, have dinner, do all the things that, what do they call it? Is it a dinky? Double income, no kids yet. Yes, that's it. The dinky lifestyle. If you've ever heard of that, let me know. We very much lived that dinky lifestyle, and that was when I was working in the corporate world. But something happened in the corporate world, and I was made redundant from one job. Thought, okay, this has happened. It was bound to happen eventually. The company that I was at, they would restructure every single year. So if you missed the first 1, 2, 3, you were bound to get touched by the 4th or 5th. And I think I was the 5th one. And that's how I got moved on. And then I got another job in a different corporate, Worked there for about 7 or 8 months and then was made redundant again. So that was twice in less than 12 months I was made redundant. And I thought, right, do I do this again? Do I go back into the corporate world and have another go at this? Or do I do something a bit different? And I'll always remember having a phone call from a recruitment agency, and they said, why don't you set yourself up as a company? And at the time I thought, well, how can I be a company? I don't understand what you mean. And they were talking about day rating as a consultant. And I didn't think anything per se at the time around what impact that would have on the family. Lucas was 2 years old at this stage, very much still a baby. So I thought, I don't want to go back to the corporate world. I want to start a business, master my own destiny. You know, the cliche sayings, you know, all the things that you look at if you do ever start your business thinking, oh, I'm going to take over the world and I'm going to do everything that I see all these entrepreneurs on social media doing. But it's not like that at all. And fortunately, I was lucky enough to have the business take off, I'd say, over the course of the first 12 to 18 months. We steadily growed, and then it got to year 2, and it just catapulted, both in terms of how the business was operating, the different competencies of the skills that we were bringing in, the demands on us to be able to do this, and also the massive impact that it has on time. And it's a cliche, isn't it? But time is very precious. And when you do this, you realize how much time just falls away. I mean, I remember when Lucas was 2, blink now, and he's turning 7 on Thursday. Where's that time gone? I don't know. I don't know where that time's gone. And as I go through this, you'll understand some of the challenges that probably every parent has with missing those sort of precious moments. Now, when you first start your business, I don't think there's ever a truer saying in that you are in the trenches. You have to do and be everything and everyone. And you just watch those companies where they will start and someone requires themselves to be the CEO, someone wants to be the CFO, nobody wants to do the logistics, nobody wants to do the admin, etc., etc., etc. And those businesses will fail relatively quickly. If you really want to do this, and when you start, like we did, we didn't start with any startup capital. We don't have any investors. We're self-funded. We still are today, which is something I'm very proud of. So we didn't have millions of dollars to be able to stick into the business. We had to build it from scratch. And when you build something from scratch, you have to work all the hours that God sends you and be everything to everyone. And that is just the downside, I would say, of it. But it's also a really important process to do, because if you're not everything in your own business when you started, how are you supposed to trust people to do the things that you won't do? I think that's really important. It's a great comment here from Sharon. So Sharon says, I tried to include my 9-year-old, which was today, in my business antics as much as possible. I bring him to the office or training sessions where I'm delivering virtually and include him in a particular scenario, which includes empathy training for those with customers who are parents, and how those in customer service should include both the parent and the child in interactions, especially difficult interactions. This goes down well and helps Matthew understand what I do. That's a great point, Sharon, because I think it's easy not to include them because we just assume that they're children, and they are children. What would they know? They wouldn't understand anything what's going on. And most of the time, what I found is it's not a case of them understanding what you do. They just want to be around mummy or daddy. They just want to be there while you do something. And you give your child a little taste of what it's like, a little bit of responsibility. and just watch how engaged they are. And for me, I've had Lucas come into the office, and I've said to him, look, Lucas, I need this paper shredding safely. Will you shred this paper for me? And oh my God, does he take that job seriously? But he loves it. He absolutely loves it. It's a great thing to do to keep me involved. So thanks for that, Sharon. So as I said, you must do it all. You must be the cleaner. You must be the business person. You must be the driver. You must be the accountant. Until your business grows and you start to have those support functions taken care of by maybe outsourcing to other people, you've got to do it all. And as you would imagine, if you're watching this now, you've got your job. And I would imagine that your job has many facets to it, but it is your job. You are either an accountant or you are a driver or whatever that might be, but that is your job. Now imagine being the accountant, but also you've got to make sure that you do the operations side of it as well. You've got to be the delivery driver. You've got to be the baker, depending on the business that you're in, and everything in between. Now, just imagine how much time that takes from you, but also takes from your family. And that's something to bear in mind when you're thinking of starting a business is, can you offset that time that you're going to miss from your child to put into your business? Is that worth that calculation? That's not for me to say if it is or it ain't. It's a difficult question to ask to yourself, especially if you're doing a Dave Goggins approach and looking in the accountability mirror and asking if you're prepared to make those sacrifices. Because as I do say, you don't get those early years back. And as a result of being everything to everyone, and what I was finding was, where's Daddy gone? He's not around anymore. He was here. Where's he gone? And it was difficult because I think in the early years of my relationship with Lucas, you could see a divide happening. I wouldn't say he completely rejected me, but it was getting close that he would always go to his mum when he'd get ill or sick. I think that's just the way it is. I speak to other people who are parents who don't do what I do, and whenever their kid grazes their knee or does something, they should run straight to their mum. And I expected that, but it was a little things that was sort of like made me go, like when it'd be, kick this ball, throw this around, do this for me, or can you do that? He would never come to me first. He would always go and ask his mum, and then I would hear that when I was there and try to jump in and say, "Oh, I can do that with you, mate." And he'd sort of go, "Okay," and we'd have a great time, but it always was that initial shock of not hearing my name being called first. Yeah. And as I said, Sharon, thanks for watching and supporting as always. You always get it. Well, it's always mummy when they're injured. I don't know why. I probably can take a good guess why. It's sort of like, why wouldn't you go to your mum? I remember when I used to be a kid, I'd get really bad headaches, and one of my fondest memories was lying in my bed, and my mum would come in and she'd sort of stroke the back of my head. Oh, absolute heaven! My headache would go like that, and nobody else can do that. I don't even think to this day. So Kelly, my wife, if you're watching, go speak to my mum. There's some lessons to be learned there. Oh God, it's recorded this as well. Now this is a heartbreaking line, and how many times have we ever said this to our children? I mean, especially during lockdown recently. You working from home when the schools were closed. The kids don't understand. They don't get it. I mean, at first it was fantastic. Mummy and Daddy are at home, everybody's together. But I think even now things have gone back to normal. Before COVID times, Lucas would come to me and ask me for things and ask to do things, and it would always be, "Oh, yes, mate, I will, but let me just." There would always be a but. I didn't really understand what impact that was having on him. Now he would say now that he didn't have an impact, but you can tell. You could tell when they ask you something, and you know that you should do it. You want to do it, but you can't do it. Maybe people are watching going, "Well, you can always do it," but unfortunately, when you do start a business and you're not funded and you've got to do everything yourself, and you've made some big commitments that are coming due, you've got to deliver on them. And unfortunately, sacrifices have to be made. And that was my learning of one of my sacrifices, was saying that line, maybe later, or in time, mate. Now, one of the things that's always tough is when you miss out on the big things, such as a graduation, or a report card moment, or when you go to a parents' evening. I can't even remember, more so because some of them have gone virtual now, but they're going back to normal. Before COVID, I think I went to one parents' evening when we first started MKL, and that's not good enough. But that's what I've done. And you miss those big moments. And there's that scene in, I don't know if you've seen Austin Powers, where he's singing, I think it's the one with Michael Keaton in it as well. I'm not going to say the name. If anybody can say the name, I'll put it in the comments, I'll put it on the screen. But he's singing that song going, "Daddy wasn't there to change my underwear." I just had roaming visions of Lucas saying that when he's older, going, "Daddy wasn't there." Just makes me paranoid of missing some of those big moments. But missing the big moments is tough. But what I found was the hardest thing is the little things that you miss. So in those early days, I'll talk about it, what's life is like now, 4 years in to doing this. But in those early sort of 18 months, I don't think I read Lucas a bedtime story. The bath times, which should always be a fun time, especially when you've got a 2-year-old. It's always carnage bathing a 2-year-old, but it's a lot of fun, especially with boys, because they're just absolutely nuts. So I miss those opportunities to be able to do those little things, and it was the little things that added up to make it quite tough, because when you're not doing the little things, unfortunately, it's those little things that can have a lasting impact. But the big things being missed was tough. But when the day-to-day, as we call it, the day-to-day bullshit takes over, unfortunately, it's those little things that you just don't get to do at home. And not surprisingly, it causes tension. It's very difficult. You do have to have a very supportive partner, and they have to be able to see your vision. And if they don't, then that's up to you to educate them on your vision, to understand why you're doing these things. I'd always say never chase the money. So if the reason why you're doing this is money, it's always going to be a tough road to go down. Now, if you're doing it because of the passion, it brings life to you. And I don't mean like you're alive on about, you know what I mean by saying it brings life to you. It injects adrenaline into your blood, keeps you engaged, keeps you scared, keeps you motivated. Then that's your vision. And if you are concentrating it on money, then I would say if you do it that way around, then the money will come. It just does. But in regards to the tensions at home, that can be a big factor, because yes, we're talking about the impact that it has on children, but what impact does it have on your partner, both husband and wife, when you're not around? We are all human. We can get lonely. We do need to find the time to make sure that you're showing that you are still there, you do still care, but also you've got a mission, and this is your mission, and your mission needs to be fulfilled. And if you don't fulfill your mission, then who knows? Probably a different conversation is that one. So health is always something that does suffer. Unless you're lucky enough to have one of those businesses where your business is health, then my God, you're living the holy grail there. But I found personally my health massively suffered in the early days of MKL. I say the early days, it's coming to year 4 now, but only just started to get my health in shape. because the job that we do, we're required to be able to be out on the road constantly, all over the place, all over the country, working ridiculous hours, doing day-night days, as we call it. Sometimes we'd work 37 hours straight, and then you look at a burger after you've been working 37 hours and a salad, and you tell me which one you're going to have. Or you look at your bed or your sofa and Netflix and look at your running trainers after 37 hours, you tell me which one you're going to do, because I'm telling you now, you're lying. But if you do pick the salad, if you do pick your running trainers, teach me how to do that, because I don't know. Learning. So your health, it's really important, because if you don't have your health, you don't have your wealth. And ultimately that impacts your children as well. I mean, who wants to be, X amount of stone overweight, and you can't bend down to pick your ball up with your kid or run around with them or constantly have a bad back? Nobody wants that. And if you do, then you're lying. But health massively impacted when we first started this. I mean, I put so much weight on and got so groggy as a result of that it's only just taken me till now to be able to realize the importance of your health. And as things grow, and your business starts to take off, hopefully, because obviously there's a flip side of the coin that you can put all this effort in and it just doesn't go anywhere. But there's different learnings involved there. And that's probably a different conversation. But as things grow, hopefully, you can start to hire people, outsource. So you can hire an accountant, hire drivers, hire people to look after your operation, hire people to clean the place, hire people to do various things for you. And that frees you up to be able to do, arguably, what you shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't be in the trenches anymore. You need to be thinking about, well, now the business is up and stable, where are we going? What are we doing? How are we going to fund this? What skills do we need? And if you're in the trenches doing that at the same time, it's a dangerous place to be, because you're going to struggle and at the risk of burnout. So as your business starts to grow, you start to be given opportunities to take time back. And the most important thing when you start to take that time back is you get, as Mel Gibson would say, freedom. Now, I can only give you it from my point of view. Being in the corporate world and running my own business are chalk and cheese. So they are completely different. I will never, ever, ever go back to the corporate world. You can't once you've done this. You just can't. The freedom you get with running your own business is phenomenal. And people think, well, if you've got that much freedom, then, why don't you just sit around and watch Netflix all day? Well, you wouldn't have a business that's lasted 4 years if you did that. If anything, you're hard on yourself because you've got no one to blame other than yourself if nothing works. So the freedom that you're given back as a result of your own business is you get time. You do get time back once you're up and away. Now, what do you do with that time? You could use that time to do anything. Take your kid to the cinema, be there to read the bedtime story, put them in the bath, do the little various touch points that I spoke about before that might not mean a lot to them, but it means the world to you. And it might be a weird way to phrase that. You could say it might not mean a lot to you, but means the world to them. But you know what kids are like. I mean, I did read a very heartbreaking story with the recent 9/11 anniversaries. A child, or who was a child at the time, 26 now, so he was 6 at the time. His dad, unfortunately, died in the Twin Tower attacks. And he said that he doesn't really remember his dad dying. He was just happy that he got a PlayStation 2 because that's what the parents and family rallied around to do. Well, your dad's unfortunately died, but here's a PS2. He doesn't remember much about his dad dying. He just remembers a PS2. So these big instances that you might make in your head are not important to you, might not necessarily be important to them, but making the time to be able to read them a story or put them to bed. Again, they might just go, okay, my dad's reading to me tonight. But be selfish in those opportunities. Take them for yourself. Sniff your kid. How many times did you sniff your kid when they were a baby? They don't smell that like that for long. They end up smelling really weird when they get to about 5 onwards. But take that time for yourself. Be selfish. You deserve it. If they don't want you, if they're not really that bothered about you being there to read or not, if it's mum or it's dad, use it for yourself. Take that time. And just to reiterate in point in terms of health, so this isn't just physical health, this is mental health. So taking the time to be able to spend those quality touch points with your children. And it's not a case of quantity over quality. The quality time is important. Taking that time to make them feel special, but also taking the time to be able to work on yourself. And that could be a case of you spending time with your children will improve your mental health. Taking the time to go for a run improves your physical health. And they are very much linked with your job, very much so. It's only over the last sort of couple of months I've really started to see that. I've really started to get my ass into gear in terms of health and fitness. So I'm starting to see the benefits as a result. I mean, things twinge, don't get me wrong, but that's because my body's going through change at the moment. I mean, I haven't ran properly for a good 4 or 5 years. So my nearly 40-year-old body's going, bloody hell, what's going on here? What are you running for? But they are massively important, and they're intrinsically linked. Finishing this off now. So if you remember, I showed a slide at the start about hard work ethic, etc. For me, it's gone full circle. So I want Lucas to be able to look at me and his mum and go, I'm seeing mummy and daddy working hard, trying to do their best for me, my education, everything I need as a child to support me, both love, care, and yes, I'm being honest, some materialistic stuff as well, because if you're a kid who don't want an Xbox Series X, but I want him to be able to look and go, if you work hard, then good things can happen. And I'm hoping that the cycle repeats itself when he has children. So he'll say to his children, I saw my mum and dad working hard, but at the same time, what my parents couldn't do for me, because I don't think they were in the detail or to be able to think that way, I'm going to try to teach Lucas about those important touch points with his children. So don't change your work ethic, work as hard as you can. As they say, you must suffer to be able to achieve anything, but also make sure you take the time to be able to enjoy your children, because they're not children forever. So I think I'm done. Just over half an hour. I'll just check the comments to see if anybody's got anything else to say. No, some comments there from Sharon. And I think we are all clear. Oh, great live. Oh, thank you very much, Sharon. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to end it there. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, please comment if you want us to talk about anything. Just to reiterate the point that 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, we will be live with our second Here to Tin Pot 2 podcast. And in this one, we review the 80s classic, Aliens. I'll say that again, Aliens. So don't miss that. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, Wednesday, Aliens review on Here to Tin Pot 2 podcast. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.